Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in to a special edition Batter Up Podcast, Sports Insanity Network. Mike Rifkin, the old ops guy, with you. Now, I know what you're thinking. You guys usually don't do Batter Up during the week, the midweek stuff because the season's over. But we're talking National League Championship Series because the New York Mets are coming home. Cue up the Chris Daughtry song that you're going home because the Mets mark are coming home with a split in LA like we all wanted. Just like they did in the NLDS, the Mets are coming home 1-1 in the best of seven for the National League Championship Series.
It couldn't have went a better way. I mean, to split with Philly is what we wanted, and we wanted the same thing here. After the shellacking after game one, it got a little nerve wracking. Could we do it? But we believe in this team. And here we are again, 1-1 on the way back to City.
And exactly like you said, 1-1 like we wanted, but it didn't start the way we wanted it to. Sunday night was to quote one of the greatest singers of all time, Bono. It was Sunday, Bloody Sunday. The Dodgers routed the Mets in game one by a score of 9-0. Kodai Senga, who was given the start, only went an inning and a third, 2 hits, 3 earned runs, 4 walks, no punch outs. There was a topic, a lot of conversation online. Was Senga the right guy? You had the days off, so you could have started Sean Manaea in game one. I know where I stand on this. Where do you stand on this, Mark?
Seeing Senga come out in the NLDS in game one was a nice surprise. I was kind of expecting this. I was kind of expecting Senga to be involved somehow to give the starters a little bit of a break. And from the first 20 pitches he threw, nothing was close, really. You could tell he was not set. He was not ready, whether it was the pressure of the game, whether it was, the not having the quality starts throughout the year, a lot of different things. So unfortunately, he came out and I hate to put it this way and shit the bed, but the rest of the Mets pitching staff didn't fare much better.
Well, I'll read off the rest of the pitching numbers. Reed Garrett inning and a third, 1 hit, no runs, 2 strikeouts. David Peterson, 2 and a third, 4 hits, 2 runs, a walk, 2 strikeouts. Danny Young didn't give up anything in an inning and third. And Jose Budo gave up 2 earned runs in an inning and 2/3. And I thought Budo's usage was interesting because you would use Peterson. So now 2 of your 3, let's call them bulk guys or multi-inning
Right.
guys, are not available for Monday, which we'll get into in a minute. I had no problems with starting Kodai Senga in game one. For this reason, Kodai Senga made one mistake against the Philadelphia Phillies, and it was against Kyle Schwarber, the first batter of the game. Going forward, and I know it was only 2 innings or whatever it was, he was fine. The difference between the Dodgers and the Phillies is the Dodgers don't chase. They
Right.
don't. They're not TLC. They don't go chasing waterfalls. I had no issue with starting Senga also because think about it, Senga made one start this regular season. It was against the Atlanta Braves. So when he started against Philly, the Phillies hadn't seen him in a year. His start him starting against the Dodgers. The Dodgers had not seen him in a year. So I like the thought from Mendoza to say, you know what? Kodai Senga is our guy.
Right.
He was supposed to be the guy. It didn't work out in the Mets' favor. But then again, look, the Mets offense was not great in game one, and give credit to Jack Flaherty, who was fantastic. But there were times that the Mets, had opportunities they just didn't cash in, i.e., the Jesse Winker terrible base running, which, you know what? Those things are going to happen. And, give the Dodgers credit, because I think the Dodgers coming off that Game 5 win against San Diego, they got one day off. The Mets had 3 or 4, now 2 or 3 rather. Now, while the rest was needed because of the amount of games the Mets had to play in the consecutive days, and I'm not going to make an excuse for them, the Dodgers were ready. They worked their counts. Jack Flaherty was awesome. That and by the way, if I had to hear Smoltz and Davis talk about the scoreless inning streak again, I'm gonna barf. And then and the Dodgers, listen, they've gotten everyone to contribute this postseason. It hasn't just been the Shohei Ohtani show. Mookie Betts has gotten hot. Max Muncy's gotten hot. Tommy Edman has played well for them. And of course, Freddie Freeman drove in a run because it's Freddie Freeman against the Mets, and that is just normal. But then we get to game 2, and everything about game 2 sums up the Mets season. If you want to know anything about the 2024 New York Mets, all you got to do is watch game 2 of the National League Championship Series. Because Mark, Francisco Lindor, the Mets MVP, probably the guy who's going to finish second in the National League MVP voting behind Ohtani, he led off the game with an 8-pitch at bat. And then he took a Ryan Brazier fastball and deposited it in right field.
It was a nice swing, number one. Number two, whatever his problems were in game 1, they didn't show up in game 2. Lindor looked more energetic. He looked more ready. Jack Flaherty pitched a hell of a game 1. That's the type of start you expect from a guy like him. Very important.
That was an ace-like performance.
Absolutely. And I'm not going to take that away from him at all. He deserves it. But you can't take away from what Sean Manaea did in game 2.
We'll get into Manaea.
Yeah, you can't take away from what Manaea did in game 2. So game 1, we put behind us. It's gone. It's out of the way. No problem. Game 2, the Mets showed up. Not like they weren't there for game 1, but I'm sorry. You're playing the Dodgers. Mind you, if it was playing the Padres, we would have been just as worried because the Padres were that good of a lineup and still are. Just because they're not in it doesn't mean anything. But the Mets got shellacked, but then they went toe-to-toe for game 2. And we saw what the result was. Like you said, Lindor, first at bat, takes 8 pitches and a home run. Let's not count out what happened next.
Yeah, top of the second inning.
Top of the second. Mets get the bases loaded.
Hold on.
Okay.
Let's set the table first.
Fair enough.
Because Tyrone Taylor doubles in a run, and then they're second and third with 2 outs.
Correct.
Lindor's back up, and Dave Roberts says, he's not beating me again. We're going to walk him. Mark Viento steps up and cue up the Michael Jordan meme of I took that personally, and he winds up hitting a grand slam to right center field, and the Mets all of a sudden have blown this thing open in the second inning. It's 6-0.
Right. And from day one, I'm going to say even before day one in the preseason, go back and read at the sportsinsanitynetwork.com all the articles on Mark Vientos and how much I had faith in this kid and backed him up throughout the year. Look where he is now.
And in a year of him having moments, that was his biggest moment.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing, and I've written this on Twitter. I've said it to people. This playoff run for Vientos, because he had a great series against Philly too. It's almost reminiscent of 2015 Daniel Murphy. And
Kind of.
And think about where they hit in the lineup. Murphy hit 2. Vientos is hitting 2.
Me too.
There's a lot of similarities there. We by the way, both are more known for their offense than their defense. By the way, Vientos made the biggest play of the game in the 7th inning, that double play ball.
Yes.
I mean, that was huge, and we'll get into that more in a few minutes. But this lineup, or you know what, forget the line. This team, whenever they get punched in the mouth, they respond. And they respond. They don't just respond, they respond emphatically.
Right.
So Lindor hits the home run. I don't have to hear Smoltz and Davis talk about the Dodgers scoreless streak, pitching scoreless streak anymore, thankfully. And then it's like, all right, it's 1-0. Minaya mows them down 1-2-3 in the first, including a strikeout of Ohtani. Then you get to the second inning, and before the Vientos grand slam, you had a Tyrone Taylor double.
Right.
To drive in Marte, who had led off with a walk, I believe. Him and Winker had walked. And then you're like, okay, it's 6-0. And the way Minaya was dealing, you felt that was enough. And then bottom of the 5th, Max Muncy homers at 6-1. And then the 6th inning is where the floodgates will open to a degree for the Mets. Walks, which have killed them all year. Shoddy defense by a guy in Jose Iglesias who's been so good all year. I can't even get mad at him.
Right.
A play where I think Pete Alonso was screened by Freddie Freeman. And Tommy Edman winds up driving in 2 runs to make it 6-3.
I rewatched that 3 different times, and I don't know why they didn't challenge it.
Which play?
The screen. I would have said something. I don't know.
The only way they could have challenged.
I think Mike froze for a second. We'll hopefully get him back in a second.
I think it's if the ball actually hit Freeman. That would be the only thing, because Machado running out of the baseline, and they didn't challenge it, but the ball had hit him, and so I don't think anything would have happened in this in that spot. And in the back of my mind, I'm going, I'll be honest with you. I'm going, they're gonna blow this. The Met fan in me was like, they're gonna blow this. They're gonna blow a 6-0 lead. They're gonna fall behind 0-2, and they're gonna have to win 3 games at Citi Field to even have a chance. But then Phil Maton got a big out.
Yes.
Ryan Stanek, who's been phenomenal in the playoffs, pitched a scoreless inning in whatever he went, inning and 2/3, was it? inning and a third. And then they went to Edwin Diaz. And
And we all held our breath as usual because Edwin Diaz started doing Edwin Diaz things. And he wants to get the Mets fans, a little riled up. But when it all said and done, he got the job done.
him striking out Betts and Freeman in the bottom of the ninth sealed
Yeah.
it. But I do want to go to the top of the ninth because we talked about this at length because we were like, it's 6-3 and I'm still not comfortable.
Right.
We need an insurance run. They need an insurance run. And the two guys, I think a lot of people would call them unlikely heroes.
Okay.
Based on what have happened. Alonso gets on, I believe it was a base hit, if I'm not mistaken.
It was a base hit to left field, yes.
Base hit. And everyone who's been down on Pete Alonso this year because of the down year and the contract year, he has made up for it exponentially in the playoffs here.
Mm-hmm.
Then Pete Alonso decides to steal second base.
Yep, with no challenge or anything, no throwdown.
Throw. And then a guy who feels like he's starting to get going, Starling Marte with a huge base hit. Alonso scores. It's 7-3 going into the bottom of the ninth. And then Edwin Diaz, as we mentioned, leadoff walk, a base hit, and you're getting nervous. And he gets then he gets the top of the lineup to he got 2 strike. Did he get 3 strike? Oh, he struck out the next 3 after that.
Right.
Edwin Diaz. And the Mets come home tied 1-1. I don't know about you, but I thought the Marte at bat was so important. And by the way, it does look like Marte's got his feet back under him.
A little bit, yes.
And he's starting to get the look of that player he was before all the injuries. The other guy they need to get at least one big hit from, because he had ample opportunities yesterday, Francisco Alvarez needs to become.
And he was turning it on towards the end of the season. He played great in the NLDS. Now we need him even more. And he was set up a couple times with runners in scoring position and did not come through, which is un-Alvarez like. But we definitely have the right team on the field.
Right. And listen, he's 22. He's super aggressive. And the Dodgers have used that to their advantage against him at times. There's just, I'm not trying to say this with my chest out because I'm so pumped they got the split that everybody wanted. But I'm like, you know what? If you go back and watch game 1, it was 3-0 for a long time, and they had opportunities. They can compete with the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yes.
Now, the thing that scares you about the Dodgers is that whole lineup is now contributing. It's not just Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman and Teoscar Hernandez. Will Smith has gotten going. Muncy's gotten going.
Yeah.
Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the one advantage the Mets have is in the rotation. They use Senga in one, and then yesterday, I'm going to say this because it's become a thing on Twitter, and I know you are not a wrestling guy.
No, I'm not. So if I look puzzled, everybody will wonder why. It's okay.
Sean Manaea is the Mets pitching rotation's tribal chief. And today, we acknowledge Sean Manaea and the job he's done.
It's the most you're going to get out of me.
If you're a Met fan, you throw up the 1 for Sean Manaea.
Hat over the heart's good enough.
Okay. 5 innings, 2 hits. He got charged with 3 runs, 4 walks, which is uncharacteristic, 7 strikeouts.
If anything, Mike said it in one word. It's the uncharacteristic of the four walks. It's not a problem if he gives up a walk or two. That's nothing of an issue. But Mike hit it with the right word. Uncharacteristic. He does not walk a lot of batters.
But I think again that goes back to our talk before with Senga. The Dodgers don't chase. So that is where we're at. So Manaea goes the first five, Phil Maton an inning in a third, Ryan Stanek an inning in a third, and Edwin Diaz an inning in the third and the save. The Mets have now done something with their win yesterday that gets you really excited because they stayed away. Again, they stayed away from a Peterson yesterday. They stayed away from Budo. Both of them were probably down anyway.
Right.
But now those guys have 2 days off. The rest of the bullpen had multiple days off. Now you go home and you go to Luis Severino, who, again, was really good in the division series against Philly.
Yes.
Just take away a couple of pitches, and he threw a gem up until the 6th or 7th inning, whatever it was. But now you go to Severino, and now you go to Quintana for game 4. The Dodgers, they're going to throw Walker Buehler tomorrow, who has not been very good. He hasn't been good really since Ferris Bueller. And then they go to Yamamoto in game 4, and then Flaherty will get the ball in game 5. And then, but here's the thing: if their plan is for game 6 to be another bullpen game, if the Mets get to these starters, all of a sudden game 6 could look totally different.
The whole key, sorry,
game 6.
the whole key for the Mets right now is coming home to New York. You got to win this game tomorrow. You got your bet. Look, not to take anything away from it. Naya, Severino was far the best pitcher on the Mets staff this year. He was the most lightning. He needs to get this win tomorrow. And it's not for the reason that they're desperate. It's to keep ahead to make sure that if the Mets are going to win it all 3 in a row, hey, I'll be very happy. But the Mets need at least one win to go back to the Dodgers and to possibly get that bullpen game. The only way they're going to do that is pulling out a win tomorrow.
And let's be honest, there is a guy in the Met lineup who has owned Walker Buehler. And I'm going to get the numbers up in a second. But Pete Alonso has owned Walker Buehler. Let me just get the numbers here in a second.
While Mike's getting those numbers up, Walker Buehler 2 years ago was one of the biggest name pitchers in Major League Baseball. Dynamic fastball, great slider, good curve. And then what happened to him has happened to every top pitcher in the major league since not only the pitch clock has been established, it's with trying to ramp these guys up and throw them out there more than they can. And Walker Buehler is now on his coming back from his second Tommy John surgery and has not looked anything like he did before.
And part of that is the velo looks, he's not throwing as hard. But there's a lot going on here, and he throws only about 4 or 5 innings. He doesn't give them a lot of a lot of length.
That's why getting to him early is going to be key for this team. And if the Mets can keep coming out like they have been, aggressive at the plate, not watching every pitch go by, and I love the home run. I'm never going to say I don't like seeing a home run, but I love the small ball that they've been playing. They're not always doing it off the home run. Yes, the grand slam by Vientos was half the runs the Mets scored yesterday.
And we talked about small ball, and there was a point, I think it was first and second, and Iglesias coming up. I'm like, have him bunt. Right. Just bunt it over. Even if you don't score, the threat of the bunt now plays in the Dodgers' heads. Now, the bunt is something I would like to see them do more, particularly at Freddie Freeman. If Freddie Freeman's ankle is that bad, and I'm not saying this to be mean, take advantage. If
Put him
you
on base. He
if you
can't run.
right, if you bunted at the first baseman, if Freddie Freeman's playing back, it's a hit. Now, on to those Alonso numbers. 5 for 14 against Walker Bueller, 4 homers, 8 RBIs.
The question becomes, does the bond issue play? And I said to Mike yesterday, if I'm the Mets, I'm walking Ohtani every time at bat. I don't care if he's the leadoff person. You're putting him on. Alvarez has proven to be able to throw him out. So you have to have that type of confidence in saying, I'm going to put a guy like Shohei Ohtani on from the get-go. The question is, would the Dodgers consider the same thing with Pete Alonso, considering how well he's hit Walker Buehler? Analytics is where this part of the game comes in. It's sizing up one batter who can absolutely destroy you. And for this game, Mike has it pinned right that this is Alonso's turn against somebody who he has not hit against, has rightfully owned in his career.
Yeah, and look, all of a sudden now, this lineup has some confidence, and they've got guys in it with confidence. We're not just talking about Lindor. We're not just talking about Alonso. But Vientos gets a big hit. Marte gets a big hit. How many big hits this year has Tyrone Taylor gotten? And now Starling Marte looks like he's coming back into the fold. If they can get one of two other guys, whether it's Nimmo, who, by the way, we know he's playing with the plantar fasciitis, but he's still playing gamer, or Alvarez. Get one of those two guys going, lengthen it out. The one issue I do have with the lineup, and people are going to so nitpick this, and that's fine. I don't love Iglesias in the 5 hole.
Well, I understand why they're putting him there, but I don't understand. I understand why, but I don't get it at the same time. I know that makes no sense. They're trying to put a guy who's consistently hitting in the middle of that lineup to help transition to the second half. I understand. He's not a power bat. That's what I don't understand.
I kind of wonder if either Alvarez was swinging the bat better, or if they feel that we were waiting for Marte to get going. And then maybe you switch Marte and Iglesias.
Yeah, I take nothing away from what Iglesias has done this season.
Oh, no,
he's been fantastic.
It's OMG worthy.
Yeah, absolutely. No question about it. Just he's not a fifth hole hitter. I like him at the 2 or the 7. That's where I like him.
Yeah. Heck, even with the speed he produces with him hitting 9th isn't necessarily a bad.
Isn't a bad spot either, because then you're rolling over to Lindor again. So
and you can run. He can run and
do
little things. For the first time in a long time, the Mets have a couple of things. They have flexibility in the lineup. They have flexibility in the rotation. And it's all. Listen, I'm going to say this now because of course, we want the New York Mets to win. Nothing would make me happier than the Mets to eliminate. Actually, a couple of things would make me happier, but nothing would make me happier than to see the Los Angeles Dodgers or the Los Angeles Monstars, whatever you want to call them, go home. But this year, and I know, I know people are going to say, you don't know when you'll get back. I know. 2024 was a year that people said the Mets are punting on. They didn't punt,
No, they went for it.
and they've shocked the world
Yes,
because
they've converted that 30-yard first down.
they are not supposed to be here. This was
Well,
a team in May, 11 games under. I was like, you know what? They're losing close games, but they're going to sell at the deadline. It's fine. Look ahead. Then they found a way to just turn this stupid thing around.
what do you mean, they? It was one guy.
No, it was three guys.
No, it was one guy. He's big, he's fictional, and he's purple. No, I'm not talking about Barney. It took
I
a
know who you're talking
fast
about.
food character to get this Mets team going, and thank God it wasn't Taco Bell.
The Chihuahua.
Not a sponsor for a good reason, too. Grimace, McDonald's, man, also not a sponsor. We would love you, though. I'd be more than glad to support that.
Free chicken nuggets for life.
Free Happy Meals for my kids for life.
There you
Just throwing it out there, Mickey D's. What is that of all people? Grimace, not Ronald, not even the Hamburglar.
No.
We get Grimace.
The Hamburglar played hockey.
We got Grimace. And what did Grimace do? Nothing special except walk out to the mound. And then all of a sudden, this season turned around. Now Grimace has his own special seat up in the 300s. It's purple. You can go sit in it if you want to feel that empowered. And this is when the season started rolling. Grimace comes out, and this Met team said, let's go. Let's go because this is what Mendoza said. They brought down a picture of Uncle Stevie Cohen in his suit, and he said, for every loss we get, I'm taking a piece off. And you're going to have to live with looking at this. What happened?
Shout out
the
movie
Mets
Major
didn't
League.
lose. Because no offense, Uncle Stevie, we love you. We love your money. Nobody wants to see your old naked body right now. I'm sorry, not happening. I couldn't deal with that, and I don't think they could either.
I
we won.
really can't believe we're going here.
We are, because we got it, Mike. I'm sorry. The story has to be told. We're going back to the NLDS. Mike and I are going crazy. Mike sends me a GIF of Pedro Serrano saying, I have to wake up bats. I answer back, hold on, I have rum. I go run in the kitchen. I grab my bottle of Malibu and I am drinking it from the bottle. And then I come running back and I sit down and I say, here we
Also,
go.
Malibu,
What's
not
the
a
next
sponsor.
thing that happened, Mike?
Lindor hit the home run.
The bats woke up.
But I want to go back before we jumped off a little bit. But the guys you got to give credit to.
Sorry. Had to be done.
No, it's fine. And give Grimace credit too.
Yep.
But Lindor took off when they moved him to leadoff. Iglesias came up, which was massive. But I think you hit the nail on the head when you started with the Major League reference. Give Carlos Mendoza a ton of credit because it's not easy in a city like New York to have a team that had aspirations or expectations and they weren't meeting them. And then the talks become selling off at the deadline, what's going to happen next. And Carlos Mendoza has been so even keel about it. I think that steady influence of Carlos Mendoza has been so important for this team. Not to say Buck Showalter wasn't a great manager for this team, but it's a different team. Why is it a different team, you ask? Well, this team doesn't have Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, or Jacob deGrom at the top of the rotation. They went a different direction because of that. Now, those guys are sitting at home watching the New York Mets play in the National League Championship Series. And I don't mean any disrespect to any one of the three of them. They are all Hall of Famers in my book.
Yes.
I think Buck deserves to be there too, but that's again a whole nother conversation. But this team, there is something about this team. The 2022 Mets won 100 games. This team feels different.
They were counted out. That was what it, if I'm the New York Mets and I'm sitting here, look, what David Stearns did with this team and moving on plan B and pulling an audible here and there, he is the brilliant man and the reason why they wanted him from Milwaukee. Okay. You're now putting David Stearns' brains with Steve Cohen's money, and that's just a beautiful sight to see. So he brings in Severino. Quintana's already there. You have Peterson, you have Miguel, but he wasn't done. He was thinking how he was going to do this. And there was no monster hole to the Mets this year because all everybody was saying was the Mets were going to be more of rebuilding in 2024, and you'll see more of them in 2025 and 2026. David Stern says, no, we plan on playing in 2024 and don't count us out in the wild card. Lo and behold, that's where the Mets ended up. And now look where they are. And like Mike said, they don't have a number one, number two, and number three real pitcher. I mean, it's all scrambled up there. And the three big ones, look at what we got in return, and it's going to be playing for them in the field next year. But you can't tell me there's not part of Scherzer, part of DeGrom, Verlander, it's hit or miss, who are not saying, shit, I should have stayed. Mind you, DeGrom might have not pitched at all this year as he didn't really pitch much in Texas.
No, he pitched
and
late.
It's the same thing for Scherzer. So it's like them being traded didn't help the other team anyway.
It helped Scherzer helped the Rangers win the World Series last year, but you're right, going into this year. And that's the other caveat here. This team has a lot of similarities to that Texas Ranger team last year. Having to fight for a playoff spot, having to go on the road in the wild card series, find ways to win. There's a lot there. I'm just, if you're a Met fan right now, enjoy the ride. Citi Field should be rocking tomorrow night when Luis Severino takes the hill against the Los Angeles Dodgers against Ferris Bueller. And I just wonder what the Ohtani reception is going to be, because everyone knows that, hey, the Mets would have been in there, Shohei, if you wanted them to be. But digress. It's 3 games at Citi Field. You win 2 of them.
I was about to say, I would nothing better to win all 3, but let's go for 2.
If you win 2, you just got to win 1 in LA.
Right.
And
this go ahead, Mike.
And one of those games might be another Dodger bullpen game. But the Mets have an interesting decision of their own coming game 5. Do they go back to Kodai Senga, or does David Peterson get the ball? Very intrigued by how Carlos Mendoza goes about that.
Mendoza is going to have to talk to this team and make them understand. Look, it's not like these guys aren't major leaguers and they're not going to understand. There's going to be a lot of cheering for this Dodger team that's coming in. Okay? Let's not forget, the Dodgers started their life off in Brooklyn. And a lot of fans still say it, and they're going to have a lot of representation. It's how Mendoza gets them prepared for this game is important and has to kind of tell them they got to tune it out. Now, mind you, how do you tune out 10,000 people? Not easy. But when you're home, just do the right things and it'll be drowned out the way they need to.
Yep. Everyone enjoy those games. We'll recap the whole series. Eventually, we'll preview the World Series. Shooting for Mets Guardians. Let's go Guardians too.
Yeah, well, let's call it as it is. I mean, the Guardians and Yankees always play it off very well. Last night, the Yankees go up 1-0. Don't count out this Cleveland team very fast. That's all I'm saying.
You could count them out. Drew Carey counted them out. That's why he went. That's why he left. All right. Great. For more SIN content, check out the YouTube page, which we're live on right now. Click the little bell thing for the notifications. Like, subscribe, comment. Tell us how purdy we are. Go to the website, www.thesportsinsanitynetwork.com for great blogs, vlogs, planes, trains, and automobiles. Follow us on the socials, Facebook Sports Insanity Network, Twitter S Insanity Real. Also, shout out our brothers Rudy Campos and Sweep the League. I'm still going to call it Sweep the Leg. Deal with it. Check them out. They're on every day, too, on their YouTube page. And everyone remember, let's go Mets.
And fuck the